Welcome to the 2D podcast. Football podcast is what it is, people. With us as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com, Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, or you can read his great work. My name is Soren Petro. Sports Radio 810, WHB in Kansas City is where you can catch my show, 810WHB.com. We've got a full show, and we got a deadline to meet. Eric Eager is so in demand. He's got other work, so we're going to fly tonight. A good solid hour for you, but got a hard out tonight, so we will move quickly through the fact that Josh Allen is the favorite for the MVP. Should he be? Should the Bills be the favorite for the Super Bowl? Can the Rams repeat? What will be their biggest hurdle along that way? Are the Bengals just a flash in the pan, or have they been built for the long haul? I love this one. Jeff's most important AFC storyline. Most important NFC storyline. We'll give you our division winners, our wild cards, our pick for the Super Bowl, all coming up here in one jam-packed hour of NFL talk, gentlemen. Good to see you as always, and let's dive right in. Josh Allen, is he the guy who ought to be the front runner for the MVP? Eric, you're the math guy. We'll let you lead this one off. Tell me, is he the guy who ought to be up there as the number one guy?
My colleague Timo Risky does a model where, we have like the win simulations. So like what's the, margin of victory you need to be a MVP, like what the efficiency has to be for you to be an MVP and all those things. And, I didn't cook the books, but he has Patrick Mahomes as the favorite mathematically. That's something that I think, I don't necessarily know if I agree wholeheartedly with that. I do think Josh Allen, this is his year. That being said, there's a fair amount of regression in his data last year. Last season, Allen, is basically his passer rating went down 15 points. And completion percentage, all that kind of stuff also declined a little bit. He's going to have to improve to be the MVP this year. I don't think he can be the same quarterback that he was and still win the award.
Jeff, what do you think? I mean, is it just because they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl and he's the best player and the quarterback on the team that's favored to win the Super Bowl that he's getting this nod, or do you think it's his award to lose this year?
Oh, it's his award to lose. And he got Patrick Mahomes can give so much to so many people on his own team. But I think he gave Josh Allen a huge bump in this race with the way that last game went between them. Because to play Mahomes to a draw, to do the kind of things that Josh Allen did in that game, it doesn't matter what your passer rating is. It doesn't matter what your touchdown interception rating is. It doesn't matter how many bad games you had in the past. People remember moments when they pick awards like this. It's just like with the Heisman Trophy. You got to have Heisman moments. You got to have MVP caliber moments. And so, Josh Allen, the way he plays, he creates those kind of moments. And so when you're watching highlights, when you see him play and when they win games, so much is put on his shoulders that it's hard to not be excited about his potential, especially because 2 years ago, he was a second-team All-Pro and did play at a high level. If he's able to be in the 35, 36 touchdown, 10 to 12 interception range, 4,700 yards, he's going to win the trophy. I have no doubt in my mind, unless he just completely collapses and this team, the way it's built, is not going to collapse.
I think he gets the nod, right, to start and fairly so. I think he's earned it. Like you said, the performance he had against a guy who's been an MVP on the biggest stage in the playoffs, and the fact that his team made the most moves. So his team, I think, certainly helps him out on this category as well. I think he deservedly is the favorite, and I think he deservedly will get the kiss to get things started. But, I can also remember, we talked about this, I think, a couple of times, Russell Wilson getting the nod on he was going to be the guy after like half a season. And then down the stretch, he faltered. So to your point, which speaks to your point, Jeff, that unless he falls on his face, right? Russell Wilson kind of got hurt and kind of fell on his face. But I think it can be like you kind of go in as the champ, right? You can't, the old heavyweight, or I guess it's still this way in boxing. It's just not as big a deal. Well, you got to beat the champ, right? So nobody can just equal him and get it. If all things are equal and the Bills, we'll talk about them in a second, live up to expectations, then he will get the nod. but I do think he can be knocked out, right? Like if Lamar Jackson runs for 1,215 on the ground and throws for 4,000 and the Ravens are the 1 seed, he can grab it. Patrick Mahomes can grab it. Tom Brady can grab it. Russell Wilson, I think, has got an excellent chance because he changes scenery, and so it can all be seen as the Seahawks were the problem. There are a number of strong contenders that are there, but I think it is his award, but he's going to have to be good down the stretch. Can we agree? It's a second half award the way it's handed out today, Jeff?
Yeah, well, it certainly is. And that's what I'm saying. I think when you look at the way he played in the second half of the season, not just the game against the Chiefs, he had, 11 touchdown passes and no interceptions in the playoffs. I know this award we voted on before the postseason starts, but he had a huge game against Tampa Bay. They lost it, but he was like 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, brought them back, almost got them a win in overtime. The way he played down the stretch was very high level. And the thing about this award, too, because I know my peers vote on it, is that it's very hard to win it once you've won it, because the bar gets so much higher. So for Mahomes, for Aaron Rodgers, for Tom Brady, for whoever else you want to talk about who'd be in that, Lamar Jackson, who'd be in that conversation, like they'd have to outdo what they've already done or equal their best MVP season to have a chance to beat him out for this award. I think if anybody can beat him out, it'd be like a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow, someone of that, even a Matthew Stafford, someone of that caliber who's never won it, just because they'll be playing in big time games. And what hurt Russell Wilson was that a lot of games on the West Coast, you don't see him playing in. And so you don't really have anything to remember when he is going through his tough times like he did a couple of years ago. But I certainly feel like that's the biggest competition for Josh Allen is someone like a Herbert or a Burrow.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think. Can we agree that the guy who's not winning it is Aaron Rodgers? Right, like
it'd be tough
because he's won it so many times. To your point, what has he got? 3 or 4 now?
4.
And also, I don't think voters like looking stupid in the playoffs. Right? They gave him the award, and then he didn't back it up, and so now I think he would have to have a monster year for because voters, I think this time that voted for him and then ended up getting ridiculed by friends and family and colleagues that he didn't make it all the way into the Super Bowl will be like, yeah, you're going to have to really go over the top to get this. But, a lot of it comes with how well the Bills do, Eric, and the Bills are the betting favorite. And I think rightfully so. I'm probably going to blow Jeff's mind a little bit later on in this podcast, I think, with something I'm going to say based on what our topics are. And I'm
stay awake.
I'll probably piss some people off too, in my hometown. But like the Bills are rightfully the top dog, right? Like they were toe to toe with the Kansas City Chiefs. Granted, the Chiefs didn't do it, but I think everybody views the Bengals as the upset there, not that they were necessarily the better team. No, hold on, Jeff. I know they won twice, and so you could say, but more of a styles make fights.
What? No, I mean
head as opposed to being the best.
Are you ready? Are you ready to get in a boxing match with Solomon Wilcots?
Sure.
My former colleague.
Yeah. No, not verbally. Yes, physically, God no. And he did. And that happened on Radio Railwaves at 8:10 at the Super Bowl, where he just was like, "Oh, the Bengals are the better team." The Bengals are the better team in a 2-team measurement
when they play each other.
Styles make fight, right? Like they had last year the Chiefs number. There's no doubt about it. They were 2-0. But as far as where you would rank the teams in the AFC on a poll, I don't think the Bengals were number 1. And I think where you rank the teams in the NFL this year, again, doesn't mean that they're going to go undefeated. Doesn't mean that they'll win the Super Bowl. But the Bills are the team, right, Eric? I mean, you add Von Miller to what was already a team that was good enough to win it last year. Josh Allen, another year of seasoning. The Bills are the team to beat. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we, in my simulation, I mean, we have the Bills as the highest power rated team in the NFL. They're about 6.4 points better than the average team on a neutral field. We give them 11.1 wins, and a 12% chance to win the Super Bowl. All of those are second to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, once they get by the early season schedule, it's a cakewalk for Tampa. So that's kind of where it's more of a schedule adjusted thing. Josh Allen, I have him kind of in that upper tier. Brady, Allen, Rodgers, Mahomes. If you look at the the teams that are projected to have the most wins in the NFL by us, it's Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Green Bay, Kansas City. Funny, those are the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. Allen, if they go through it, right, and let's say the Chiefs, let's say they get more towards Jeff's side of the aisle than your side, Soren, they win 10 games. Well, that's not an MVP is not coming from a 10-win team. And I think that the Chiefs have a better chance of being a 10-7 team than Buffalo does, given the division and all that. And the division is not such a cakewalk like the old AFC East that they're not going to give them consideration, right? Like Miami's going to be a decent team. I think New England's going to suck, but they're New England, so they have the narratives there. And the Jets might be better than normal. They are not great, but better than normal. And so I think all of those are going to point in the direction of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. To me, the only question is motivation at this point. Like we've seen it with Baltimore. You get to the end of the season, you lose, and you turn it around, and there's 17 more games left, and then there's 2 or 3 more games left in the playoffs. I worry, much like a season ago, that this team is going to lose a game to a team like Jacksonville, or they're going to lose. They're going to struggle against teams, like the Jets, like they did in Week 18 last year, and it's going to hurt Allen's case. The other one that's important is that Buffalo a season ago had the highest mean and median wind speed of any home stadium in the NFL during games. That decreased Allen's stats, and as much as we'd like to think that it's more of a narrative-driven award than a stat-driven award, there are some people that can't look further than touchdown-interception ratio.
Okay, back up a second. What was that stat you just threw out there? Because it just completely went right by me. I'm like, what is that stat?
So windiest stadium, is that what?
So the reason I say this is because it's good to put these things in proper context. The Bills had, if you look at Football Outsiders DVOA, the Bills had the best defense in the NFL by a country mile. If you look at like completion percentage against and all that kind of stuff, they're the best defense by a country mile, yards per play. But after you adjust for the fact that the opposition has to play in windy conditions, it's not as dominant as it looks. And that's why when you get in the playoffs and they play a great team like the Chiefs, that defense is kind of powerless, right? So when you flip it over and say, when Josh Allen is at home, which is generally speaking his favorable conditions, he's playing in unfavorable weather conditions. So, the reason he had great stats in 2020 was because when he played on the road, there were no crowds, right? So he can, he can run up the score when he doesn't have to play the Buffalo weather. And then when he has to play the Buffalo weather, it's going to decrease his stats. Now they will win in those games, but his stats won't be quite as good.
So I like what Irish Mac said. Are you talking about how fast the concessions are? Like they get the beer to the Bills Mafia as fast as possible, and therefore it creates a home field advantage because they're more well lubed than others. No, I get what you're saying. It is but I'm with Jeff. Could we?
He threw it out like everybody knew what the stat was. I was like, I'm gonna get some Advil now.
Oh, sorry.
My head writing.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. I go on these. Well, this is the funny thing about media, right? Like this is the second time I've talked to Petro on the air today. So only God, I feel like I've said these things a million times, but of course on this show, you might be talking to somebody for the first time. So that's clearly a newbie error on my part.
Yeah, just the late. Never. Here's what I learned about journalism and broadcast journalism. Never use a quarter word where a nickel word will. Windy.
Right. Windy.
It's freaking windy.
Windy stadium. Yeah.
Windy. Yes.
Yeah. That's the nickel word for the layman's. But all good. So but the Bills, we do agree going into the season, they are the best team. Doesn't mean they're going to win them all. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But they're the best team, Jeff.
Yeah, they are. And look, injuries can happen. Look what's happened with Tampa Bay. Look what happened to Baltimore last year. Look what happened to Baltimore in 2019 when Mark Ingram went down late in the year. Having a great roster, a lot of depth only matters if you're able to have good fortune on your side. I think when I look at the Bills, and I've seen some people make comments about just, their heartbreak legacy. I see a combination of the Rams last year and a combination of the Chiefs in 2019, where you've got the playoff heartbreak, the devastation of not getting over the hump. That creates a lot of focus, a lot of motivation. That can drive you in ways that that I think the Ravens haven't had that same kind of feeling. I think that's what hurts them sometimes. They haven't gotten to that place where they played in that kind of game and they can walk out feeling like, oh my God, we have to get over this somehow. Bills have been there twice. And then you look at what the Rams did last year and the moves they made. Adding a Von Miller says to me that Buffalo realizes that we got to go for it. Doesn't matter what happens 5 years down the road. We got to make a huge splash, make a big move, whatever it takes to get this done now. Which, again, Von Miller, even though he's an older player, you saw what he gave LA last year. You know that he can still do some things that can help a defense. As much as Buffalo was a good defense last year, he elevates them just being there. So for me, again, other teams can pop up there. There's no guarantee here. But when you look at those factors, the motivation and the roster together, if they blow this, I don't know if they'll ever have a better chance of what they have right now with Josh Allen playing quarterback.
By the way, I love this from Smee02. Let me contemplate this for 13 seconds. Obvious jab at the Bills not getting it done against the Chiefs for the final 13 seconds. By the way, I'll remind you, if you're catching us on the podcast, we stream live tonight. We're going at 9:30 p Central Time. Usually we're going to be Wednesdays 9 p Central. We had some family obligations that pushed us back a little bit, but usually for the most part 9 p. You can catch us live on the stream and be a part of the conversation in the chat room on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and I think even LinkedIn. I've got a LinkedIn going as well, so I think you can even get in there as well and be a part of the conversation, as a lot of folks already have been tonight. All right, so I will say this. I'll leave my last thought on the Bills is the AFC East is tougher than people think, and I'm going to prove it what I think of it here in a little bit later on. I don't think the Jets are good, but I think the Patriots are a legit game, and I think the Dolphins are a legit game. They've at least got 4 real conference games. And, at the Rams, as they open up with, they've got the Titans, they're at the Ravens, they're at the Chiefs, they've got the Packers coming in. Whatever you think of the Vikings, according to Eric, the Lions, I'm sure we're going to find out, are going to be 14-3.
That's on Thanksgiving Day. The vaunted Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day
at the Lions. So based on the Eric Eager scale, that's a bitch of a game they've got to deal with. They've got to go to the Bears, who cares, but at the Bengals. So they've got, I think the Bills' schedule. Chiefs' schedule has been much talked about, and I think rightfully so, but I don't think the Bills' schedule is any cakewalk. And so I think if they don't get there as the 1 seed, which they can still win it without being the 1 seed, if they don't get there, it'll be because that schedule played up to its full potential, and maybe was a little rougher than some people are.
Of the 10 hardest schedules in the NFL, well, actually, I'll just even round up. Of the 14 hardest schedules in the NFL, only 3 NFC teams lay claim to them: the LA Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Seattle Seahawks. And that's because the NFC West plays the AFC West. The Buffalo Bills have the 9th hardest schedule in the NFL. Like it is not a cakewalk for them, just the same way as it's not a cakewalk for Kansas City and other AFC teams.
Yeah, no doubt. Rams and Bengals were our Super Bowl participants last year, Jeff. Can the Rams repeat? Can they? Yes. Okay. Realistically, do they have the DNA and the makeup and the fire? You mentioned, I love your point about the Bills. I think the Bills are a lot like the Rams were trying to establish themselves as LA's team, even though it hadn't been 40 years. They hadn't won in Los Angeles, no championships, no Super Bowl championships in Los Angeles, their previous tenure or now. That was a very big driving force. You mentioned the Chiefs, the Bucks trying to win as well. Those teams that it's been a long time for. That's the Bills and the Chargers this year. It's no longer the Rams. We saw the Chiefs go all the way back and get to the Super Bowl. Can the Rams refine that fire? Can the Bengals get back there? What do you think of these two teams' chances?
I think it's more likely the Bengals can get back than the Rams. And I love, Sean McVay as a coach, and they've got some guys who are obviously phenomenal players, like Matthew Stafford, like Cooper Kupp, like Aaron Donald, like Jalen Ramsey. But one, obviously, it's very hard to repeat. That's why I don't like picking teams to repeat, because usually the weight of that, the off season you spend celebrating all the things that we know that goes into being Super Bowl champions for an entire off season, that stuff catches up to you. And let's not forget, this was a 4 seed going to playoffs last year. This was a team that was very close to getting beat by San Francisco in the NFC Championship game last year. This was a team that went through a 3-game stretch where they were looking very much like a team that was not going to do anything in the playoffs. And if they don't get a big throw from Stafford to Cooper Kupp in the Tampa Bay game in the playoffs, it could be a different story here. So there are a lot of moments in their season last year where it wasn't so much about them being dominant. It was about them finding good fortune at the right times. I don't think that happens year after year after year. I think they've got a division that is very difficult to get through. The Cardinals aren't a great team, but they are a difficult team to play. I look at the Niners. If Trey Lance is able to be the quarterback that he was drafted to be, that team could very easily win the division. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like I think the Bengals, people just sleep on the Bengals for whatever reason. We just talked about it, like not thinking that they're, the better team than the Chiefs. I think a lot of people look at them in the context of the AFC and the NFL at large with a similar perception of, yeah, it was a great little story. They overcame all their bad history and all their troubles for a year and made a run, but they're probably not as great as we think they are. I see a team that's got a lot of talent, a team with a stud quarterback, some great receivers, and a lot of motivation too to get back. So if I'm picking one team to be there, it'd be the Bengals.
The Bengals were one score separated with the Raiders at halftime of their playoff game. One score, only 7 points different from the Raiders in the fourth quarter of their playoff game as well. So as much as they did, credit them, winning is the most important thing, right? When you get there. But they were also, we talk about the Rams being a 4 seed. The Bengals were a low seed and were kind of farting around in the sandbox with a Raiders team that was there to fill commercial inventory, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they weren't a real challenger for a championship. And so I think that is it. But I think, Eric, Jeff hit on it. I mean, they got the quarterback, they got the receivers, they beefed up the offensive line. I think the defense is a little bit underrated, as much as I think Solomon Wilcots was overstating the quality of the Bengals. I definitely think the Bengals are a better version this year. And when you have the quarterback and the offense that can put points up, that makes you a legitimate threat.
Absolutely. The Bengals are a lock, in my opinion, this year to be a better team with maybe a worse record. Like, I think maybe not a worse record, but a worse outcome, because they were only 10-7 last year. But to your point, if Derek Carr doesn't spike the ball on first down against the Bengals when he gets that big play, it might be a totally different game. But, the first quarterback since Kurt Warner to lead the NFL in yards per attempt and completion percentage, Joe Burrow was nothing short of fantastic last year. Jamar Chase, I shudder to think he could be better, right? I mean, that dude took an entire year off of football, became a top 5 pick, and then became one of the best players in the league last year. T. Higgins is fantastic, as Chiefs fans know. He was great in the AFC title game. Tyler Boyd is still a good player. Tight end's a little weaker now that they lost CJ Uzama, but they should be fine there with Hayden Hurst and company. Offensive line got better. Defense, they got Dax Hill from Michigan, who is a good player. And funny, much like we experienced here in Kansas City, their star player that held out is playing now, because it's better to play and put tape on and get out there in Jesse Bates than it is to sit out a whole season. So they're better in the secondary, right? Eli Apple, another year, a little bit more confidence. Chidobe Awuzie is a fantastic, I think, value for them. He's a good corner, and Mike Hilton's as good of a slot guy as you're going to see in the league. So they're very good. The thing I worry about with the Bengals is, and I think I've said this on the show, but I'll go over it again. You look at the final 8 games. November 20th at Steelers, then you go at Titans, home to Chiefs, Browns at home, but with Deshaun Watson possibly, at Buccaneers, at Patriots, Bills at home, Ravens at home. Now, as somebody who loves going to Bengals games, I'm excited about that, because I get to see Josh Allen, I get to see Patrick Mahomes, all this kind of stuff. But that's a bear of 8 games. If they go 4-4 in those games, they should be lauded, right? They have to run up the score when they play the Dolphins, all the NFC South teams besides Tampa, et cetera, because again, they were a fourth place team last year. They got the 4th place schedule. The Ravens now have the 4th place schedule in that division, right? And that is where I think people are gonna really that differential is no longer just 2 games, right? It's 3 games now. It's a significant part of your schedule. So that's what I worry about with the Bengals. And people get upset about it. I've said it a number of times. I think they're going to be a better team that's going to have a worse record, and I hope that they can at least get to the playoffs so that people don't get fired over what is going to be kind of it's the glass ceiling season, right? Where you pop up, you're really good, and then the next year you take a step back, and everybody's like, well, what the heck happened? It's like, well, you weren't as good as the 10-7 last year, and you're not as bad as the 9-8 this year. That's the hard thing. It's like when the Chiefs, right? They went 11-5 and 13, and they go 9-7 and 14, and they start 1-5 and 15, and people are talking about Andy Reid's job. It's like, no, the 11-5 wasn't quite that good, and the 9-7 wasn't quite that bad.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we'll see. Curtis Siebold, who works with me, has done a stat about teams that come from, I think it's less than 6 wins to more than 10 wins. This was in the old 16-game schedule. Almost always regress back to an average record of 7-9. Right, when you kind of come out of nowhere. The ones that don't, though, prove to be elite teams. They're the ones
like McVay's Rams, right? McVay's Rams
or the Bills.
McVay's Rams, Andy Reid's Chiefs. He
Yeah.
went from a 2-win team to an 11-win team, and then went 9-7. You know, if you can, come back and still have a winning record the next year, it's generally the proof is in the pudding. You're the real deal, and you're going to be successful moving forward. That's what we're watching for out of the Bengals this year. Jeff, I do love this one, and I can't wait to hear where you're going to go. Most important storyline in the AFC. Let's start there, or do you want to go NFC? We're going to do both. Which one do you want to lead with?
I'll start with the NFC.
Okay.
Because this whole Trey Lance thing is starting to catch fire. I think that's the biggest storyline in the NFC right now. I have some friends who've been reporting on this between Mike Silver and Peter King, and there's been a lot of negativity coming out around him. And I think Peter King just wrote that he picked Jimmy Garoppolo to be starting by midseason. And I know Peter, and he's not going to throw that out there, whimsically. So I'm high on Trey Lance. It puzzles me that this stuff could be coming out at this stage, that there could be talk about Garoppolo taking his job, given all the hype that went into this draft pick, given that the Niners pronounced him as their starting quarterback and were ready to deal Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't know how you, as a young quarterback, how you deal with that, how that makes you better. And I do wonder, one, is this an attempt to try to drive him to be better, which would be a strange thing to do, or legitimately, is there concern about him? If there is, why would that be getting leaked out? And so I don't know, but there's enough smoke there now to make me wonder, this is going to be a very dramatic season in San Francisco, when it seemed like it was going to be a very simple process of, here are the keys to the car, Trey. See you later, Jimmy. Let's see what happens down the road.
I think the San Francisco, I think you're right. I think the 49ers are a great storyline to be watching, because for one, we get to find out, is Kyle Shanahan the real deal, right? Like, boy wonder, can do no wrong. Everybody always says that, he's one of the best. And I've got guys in the league that I know that say, hey, he's an incredible play caller. And I do think it, but I will point out, I wanted to bring his record up. I will point out 6 wins, 4 wins, 13 wins, 6 wins, 10 wins. Let's see back-to-back playoff years. Let's see back-to-back double-digit win years. I think you're right. Handling, now he's got to handle it, a transition to a quarterback. He's got a guy over his shoulder. I think the 49ers are going to be a story. He's got Deebo Samuel, and how does he want to be used? There's a lot going on there in San Francisco. Eric, you want to stay with the NFC, and we'll give our top stories in the NFC?
Yeah. So the Lance one's interesting. Let me get this exact filter here, because I think it's instructive. Trey Lance, while at North Dakota, had like an egregious, low number of pass attempts when his team was trailing. It was like less than 50. And that, the issue we have with Trey Lance is he was the quarterback for a team other than the Niners in that draft. Don't we think? He was the quarterback for the Jets. He was the quarterback for the Jags. He was the quarterback even for Minnesota or Chicago or something. The Niners wanted a guy that they could stuff in there right away and be amazing with an offense that was ready, right? Ready. And that's why they clung to Jimmy G so hard, because that offense was ready-made. It was time. It was time to go to the Super Bowl. The issue is since 2020, so now we're coming on 2 seasons and then now Trey Lance has started 3 games. Right? He started 1 game for NDSU in the 2020 fall, and then he started 2 games last year. And I wish, because I agree with Jeff, I think the guy's got all the ability in the world. But even when he played at North Dakota State, we didn't know that much. He was a guy, he's raw as heck, and we see all the talent. We all gave Shanahan flack for wanting Mac Jones, allegedly, right? But he probably was the right quarterback for that job. And Trey Lance was probably better off playing last year and taking his lumps like a lot of other guys. And instead, they wanted, which makes no sense to me, because when you look at the San Francisco 49ers from 2011 to now, they've had 1 season, 2014, where they didn't lose 10 games or make the NFC title game. They are the biggest boom or bust team in the NFL. And they're very clearly comfortable with losing 10 games to make a point, right? Which in this case would be that Trey Lance can play. And I think I agree with you. That's the biggest storyline in the NFC, because you look, every other team is boring. The Packers are boring. The Bucs are boring. The Rams are boring. The Cowboys, we already know what's going to happen with them. And the Eagles are an intriguing team because I think Jalen Hurts has a shot. But the Niners are the team where if they get good play out of Lance, he's the MVP, and they're the 1 seed in this conference, right? And if they don't, it's the worst looking thing of all time. If Jimmy G is starting 10 games for this team, they're a joke, right?
Yeah.
This is the biggest joke we've ever seen. And I agree. I don't think, Peter King, he had the Saints as the 1 seed in that same article. I love Peter to death. So we gotta be careful. But I agree with Jeff. I don't think he'd say any of these things if they weren't said to him. Right. So that's the biggest one for me. The second biggest one, and so I copied Jeff's answer, but I will say the second biggest one.
And are bleeding all our time on going ditto.
Shot clock.
Sure.
Get it going.
Sorry. The second biggest one, I'll be quick. It's Matthew Stafford's elbow.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a huge one. I'm going to disagree with you though that the Bucs are boring, because my biggest one is they're boring because people have tried enough times and been dunked on by Tom Brady to say the end is here. But come on, come the blank on. 40, what is he now? 6? And then pops out for 12 days to, I don't know, but some reports argue with his wife about maybe ending their relationship. And it's just going to be business as usual. Come on. If it's business as usual in Tampa, that is a huge story.
Tom Brady's a bigger sociopath than we ever thought he was.
Yes.
If he can block all that out and play at that age.
Yes. We're going to be like, whatever. You can't stop him. He's going to play till he's 80 and people, but it's still amazing. It's amazing what he's doing. If the Bucs win 11, 12 games, we got to recognize what the hell the man is doing. He's not only aging in front of our eyes, and how many facelifts has he had? Last injury that's going on as well. And then, leaving training camp, seriously, every coach is going to crap their pants if he's just business as usual, because no one's ever going to want to go to training camp again if he can just rock and fire like that. I disagree. The Bucs are not boring. Plus Leonard Fournette's fat again. And, does that even matter? Come on. The Bucs are an intriguing. Plus, if the Bucs are good, Jeff's going to have to admit offensive line doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
that's going to destroy him.
Yeah,
that'll be big. All right, AFC. Where are you going in the AFC? What's the biggest storyline in the AFC, Jeff?
Oh, AFC. I think it has to be Cleveland. I think it just has to be, just because it's such a disaster, and I'm so curious as to where they will be when Deshaun Watson starts playing, what he will be when he starts playing. Look, I'm a huge fan of his before this stuff went down. Just watching him in the preseason, that one preseason game he played, it was not good. And so, yeah, I do wonder what's he going to have after 2 years off of not, or a year and a half off of not playing football. How much will this team be affected by this. Actually, I'll say the Browns in general, because Baker Mayfield coming back for the first game is intriguing as well. So you've got that. You've got Jacoby Brissett starting 11 games. And you've got Deshaun Watson coming back for the last 7 games. I just think for a team that's got so much going for it in every other part of its roster, their quarterback situation is going to be watched all year long with all kinds of scrutiny.
Eric?
To me, it's Lamar Jackson, right? Like I think that like I said, I think the Ravens have, for the AFC, a relatively easy schedule. I think that they stopped the Hollywood Brown experiment, which I know they're friends, but like that connection just was never good. They get Isaiah Likely from my favorite college football team, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. He was fantastic in camp. They could not stop talking about him in camp. Mark Andrews is, I'm going to trigger Chiefs fans here, but Mark Andrews is one of, if not the best tight end in all of football right now. The offensive line gets Stanley back, and they get Linderbaum from Iowa. And on the defensive side of the ball, they revamped the secondary, right? Kyle Hamilton in the draft. They got Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey back. I mean, the biggest thing right now is the 4 biggest cap hits for the Ravens. Stanley, Peters, Humphrey, and Lamar Jackson all missed substantial time last year, and they're all back. They got a great coach. And I think Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson's the best long shot bet to win MVP in the NFL. I just think it's going to be one of those things this year where we're going to all come up for air and be like, well, I knew he wasn't in that top tier, but we started to talk about him in the same breath as Cousins and Matt Ryan and all these other guys. And holy bleep, we were wrong about this. He's at least quarterback 6 or 7, and much like we did in 2019.
All right, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to take the Chargers because they're being lumped in with the Bills. Like Chargers and Bills, whether
That's
there's
low hanging fruits, Soren.
Yeah, well, I know, but and I gave the Bills their props, right? They're the best team going in on paper, and if they stay healthy, and I recognize that, but it does chap my ass that the Chargers are lumped right in there. There's a similar story. Yes, they've never won a Super Bowl, just like the Bills have never won a Super Bowl. They've only gotten to 1, right? The Bills have gotten to 4. The Bills have had winning records, right? And they've gone to the playoffs in consecutive years. And it's just like because Herbert puts up some similar statistics to Josh Allen, the view is that the Chargers and Bills are right there. They both made moves and got a pass rusher. Yeah, except for the
Say
Bills.
it, Petro. Say Herbert's going to suck this year. Say it. Come on.
I'm not going to say he's going to suck, right? But I will say this. If that team doesn't come out kicking ass right away, then it could get really sour really fast.
I agree with that.
Because this is the team that, and I'm bringing up their schedule here because I was looking at it earlier, but I forgot to put it up.
It shines pretty nicely on that little Chargers team early, right?
Yeah. Well, they start with 2 straight AFC West games, right? So if you're serious, you gotta come out guns blazing.
I actually think this is low key, not to get into the betting segment, but the best bet of the weekend is the Las Vegas Raiders plus 3.5 in Los Angeles against the Chargers. There are going to be more of Ice Cube's friends who are fans of the LA Raiders back in the 80s and 90s at that game than there are San Diego Chargers fans at that freaking game. That is the Raiders. It's never going to get better for the Raiders than it is on week 1 this week against the Chargers.
Well, think about that. Think about this start. They open, like you said, with the Raiders in their building will be more Raiders. And then they got to turn around and take a short trip on a Thursday and go play at Kansas City. If they're 0-2, they can still right the ship because it's Jaguars and at Texans the next 2. So they should be able to level.
And Cleveland with Jacoby Brissett, right?
And good point. And Cleveland with Jacoby Brissett. So they're in a very – and then they got a couple of home games, Broncos and Seahawks, right? Broncos will be a tough game. Seahawks
are terrible. Falcons after that. Falcons are terrible. This is – It does, it is setting up. I mean, look, it's setting up for an epic freaking meltdown for the Chargers because here's the thing.
That's why I love the story because on paper, you're like, oh, home game against the Raiders, they're going to win that one. And the Chiefs better watch out. But in reality, it's actually tougher than people think, but they're not going to be given any quarter for that. No one is going to be like, hey, that's actually kind of a tough schedule. It's going to be like Sean put up there, Chargers, right? That's all it will be after 2 weeks. And I'm
when I was at Paul Brown Stadium watching what was at the time unthinkable, which is the Chiefs losing to the Bengals. Okay. When I was there watching that, I was also watching the scoreboard and watching the Houston Texans beating the Chargers. That like somehow like water finds its level with San Diego /LA/LAC. Like this is I like you're telling me like what's the odds? Like what are the odds that they beat all five of these terrible teams on the schedule? The Jags, Texans, Browns, Seahawks, Falcons. If the Chargers will go 3-2 against those teams, and it'll be hilarious, and it'll be the best. So I like your choice, Petro.
Let me get a timeout here. I keep hearing people talking about the Chargers always get picked to win the West. They weren't picked to win the West last year or the year before that, were they?
They've been picked to win the Super Bowl. They've been a sexy, like I remember on my PFF.com, somebody wrote Jason Verrett is the best corner in the NFL, and he proceeded to tear his ACL every year for 3 straight years. Like this team is like Mike Renner, my buddy who writes for PFF. He's picked the Chargers like 7 times to win the Super Bowl, and it's just never going to happen. I don't get it.
I've got Jeff's back though. It's kind of become like an urban legend. They were the popular pick.
Okay, I was going to say
we just echo for the last 3 years about how the Chargers. Why does everybody high on the Chargers? And in reality, Chargers going to Charger has been much more.
But hold on one sec. So
they had the 6th pick in the draft. Like it's
2018
pick in the draft 2 years ago to win the West.
But they were. What? But look, I was staying at my parents' house. And I was listening to Minnesota Sports Talk Radio, and they were making fun of the fact that they were playing Chargers that weekend. They were making fun of the fact that people are calling the Chargers the best 5-win team in football. Like everybody has made excuses. Like this is the rich kid's son. The Chargers are everybody's making excuses for the Chargers, and like I don't know. It's just funny to me, but they're. Like, this is not an urban legend. When the Chargers went on the road, the last time they were in the playoffs, they went on the road to play the Patriots in 2018. And everybody on every single betting show took the Chargers plus the points. And the Patriots absolutely whacked them. And it's every single year.
Yeah, it's cooled a little bit of late, but now it's burning with a
Herbert
fire
around the Ringers quarterback rating have Herbert 3rd.
Yeah. Yeah, trust me. I'm with you. All right, let's get to it. Division winners. AFC. You want to start there? You want to start NFC? What are the division winners? Okay, go for it, Jeff.
I got Buffalo. I've got Cincinnati. I've got the Colts. And I've got the Chargers. Just to throw it out there. Okay. So I got that. Those are my 4 division winners.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to. Now I'm thinking I'm gonna keep a record of this here, so that we have it. All right. Those are Jeff's 4. Who do you have, Eric?
All right. I'm gonna be a little hot takey. Chiefs, Bills, Jaguars, and Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, all right. You guys are just gonna. I can't keep this straight. So you're gonna have to.
We'll keep track of it for you.
Yeah, you keep track of it, and I'll send it and I'll save it on here. I love it. Yeah. I love that you're going Jags because I don't have any kind of what were yours again? Chiefs, Jags,
all chalk. Well, Bengals.
Everything except mine,
but like Bengals,
Chiefs, and Jags.
Chiefs,
Bengals,
Bills, Jags.
Okay, I'm going Bills, Ravens off the last place schedule, Colts, which is chalky, and I hate it. I wish I was rocking the Jags and the Chiefs in the AFC for my division winners. So there's nothing sexy there. The Ravens bouncing back with the last place schedule is an easy pick. But we'll see when we get to what we get to. You want to do? Let's do wild cards. Let's finish off the AFC playoffs. Let's go wild cards. Who are your 3 wild cards, Jeff?
I got Chiefs. I've got. Man, it pains me to do this. Chiefs, Broncos, and Dolphins.
Wow.
God, I got the Ravens missing it.
I'm so sad because I've got Chargers, Broncos, and Dolphins, and I've got the Chiefs winning it. So I've got the 3 AFC West too, which is boring, and I've got the Dolphins. I can't believe you're on the Dolphins. I thought I'd be a little bit novel there. Eric, where are you on the wild cards?
Ravens, and as much as it kills me, the Chargers and the Colts.
Yeah, so I've got the Bengals missing the playoffs. I've got to just be in kind of a 9-8 year for the Bengals, or maybe even 10-7 and losing on a tiebreaker. I think there might be a Super Bowl hangover. That was the hardest one I had. I can't just put last year's playoffs in and add the Chargers in. But if I had some, do you have the Chargers in, Eric? You don't.
He said it pained him, painfully put him
Pains
in.
me. Yeah, I'm lower on Vegas than I am on LA. I think they both are frauds, but like,
Okay.
you know.
NFC, Jeff, where are you going with your NFC pick?
Eagles in the East, Packers, no brainer in the North, Bucks, no brainer in the South. I'm hoping this Trey Lance thing doesn't blow up in my face, but I got the Niners.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, Niners, Eagles, Bucks, Packers. So the same as Jeff. The thing is the Cowboys, their average number of wins is 9, I think, in any simulation, but there's no chance they win. I think they're either like a 12-win team or a 4-win team. Like we've seen this over and over and over again. And I think it's already imploding. You lose Tyron Smith, you lose Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where I'm going here.
I'm going to object. Where is all this Eagles love coming from? Right? They were in the playoffs. To me, they're the biggest obvious regression back to the norm of any team out there. Like Cipriani is a coach that's going to take a team to the playoffs year after year. Kyle Shanahan can't do it.
It's Sirianni, right?
Yeah, I'm
Cipriani,
sorry.
like a restaurant in
New
York.
But the Eagles have a tried and true way of winning football games, which is you have a quarterback on a rookie deal and you surround him with a ton of talent on a crappy schedule, and to me that's the line. Now they also have a decided edge in every single game at the line of scrimmage, every single game, right? Their offensive line is a bunch of maulers. Their defensive line, they got Hassan Reddick, and they also like beefed up the secondary. They went out and got James Bradbury to play corner. Like that's a very good pick. They got Jordan Davis to help them be a little bit more creative up front. Like, and AJ Brown's a superstar, right? So I think that they're, they've assembled a roster. Now the Jalen Hurts question is always going to be there, but they won 9 games with Jalen Hurts last year, and he's gotten better every year.
Not going to happen again unless he takes a major step forward. And he threw for just over 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He took care of the ball and tried not to lose games. And that's not going to happen again. And they're playing a second place schedule. Like I object. I don't love picking the Cowboys, but somebody's got to win that division. And the Cowboys still, to me, are the team. Mike McCarthy's got a history of going to playoffs. And I know he's under fire, and it could go to hell in a handbasket in a hurry. I will grant you that the Cowboys are no lock, but I could not bring myself to putting the Eagles into a division championship, like putting them in the playoffs in back-to-back years. I don't even have them in the playoffs. I go Cowboys, Packers, Bucks, 49ers. The Bucks are the biggest lock in the bunch. The Vikings could be saltier than Eric ever wants to admit. Maybe he's right about the Lions rising up and getting something done. But
I almost put the Lions as the 4 seed. I want it. I want it badly, but
I know you do.
I'll stick them in the 7 seed instead.
But the Bucks, like, to me, maybe they only win 10 games, but who else in that division?
Well,
like, I think the Saints, and I've got the Saints in the playoffs. I'll go ahead and give you my wild cards to wrap it up. I've got Rams, Saints, and Commanders is my one bold and daring.
I like that one.
Selection.
Commanders
is my third NFC one because I didn't want to just be
4th easiest schedule in the NFL.
I didn't want to go with the Eagles. I didn't want to go with, I'm like, I got to have something. My Bengals from last year. Right, like that. I had the Bengals in the playoffs last year and was mocked. Go ahead and mock me on the Commanders. I think the Saints are going to be kind of salty, but Jameis Winston either is check down Charlie or pick central. He can't find the median in between. So they've got good talent, and I think they'll be a tough team to beat. I think playing for a new coach gives them a fire, and everybody having to kind of prove themselves. And so I think the Saints will be kind of salty. I think the Rams are too good not to get out there. I really think you can feel pretty good about the 5 of your 7, and then 2 of them are kind of wild cards.
There is going to be a bad team in the NFC playoffs,
and that's why I picked the Commanders. So, what do you got, Jeff?
Speaking, go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
Speaking of, I have the Saints. I have the Rams because I had the Niners winning it, and then I have the Detroit. Now, halfway through the season, they might not have a secondary and they turn into the Detroit Lions with no D, and that certainly can happen. But for right now, I'm putting some faith in Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Honestly, once they got rid of Anthony Lynn last year, Jared Goff's numbers were very good, and I think they'll continue it. This week might be tough against the Eagles, but they go into Minnesota and they win in week 3, and they have the Commanders in week 2. And I'm sorry, Petro, that is a 2-1 start at worst for Jets, Detroit Lions.
So you're saying the battle for the playoffs happens week 2 when the Lions and Commanders meet. This is a big game. Circle it on your Sunday ticket, fans.
Right.
Commanders Lions is actually a big game because we've got them in the
Jeff
playoffs.
is so angry right now at the Detroit.
All right, Jeff, who are your wild cards?
I've got the Rams, I've got the Saints, and just like Eric, I've got the Lions. I've somehow he and Steven St. John on your radio station have talked me into buying big on the Lions, being in their training camp, watching Hard Knocks. There's something happening there. I can't put my finger on it, but I know a lot of those coaches. I covered a lot of those guys like Deuce Staley and Randall L. and Mark Brunell. It's like they're great. You want to root for them. So I'm going to root for them this year. I'm going to get on that bandwagon with Eric. I just think when you got a schedule where you've got the Jaguars and the Seahawks and the Texans and the Giants and the Jets and the Bears twice, you're going to find a way to get to 9 wins. If you get to 9 wins, you can find a 10th in there somewhere. They had 8 one-score games, lost 6 last year. Not going to happen again.
I love the phrase, there's something happening in there. Let me tell you something. When I go into the bathroom, there's something happening in there. It's not a playoff, a trip to the playoffs, okay? There's definitely something happening in there, but it's not a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And,
well, when you were 17, there was something happening there, too, and it was a lot of fun. It was exciting, right? Think of it that way.
Oh, that's a great one. Love that one. All right, so that then brings us to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl will be who over who. Anybody? I absolutely hate what I'm going to say. But does anybody like their Super Bowl prediction? Anyone high on it?
I've gone the same way every time I've been asked this question. Bills over Packers. All the things we talked about with Buffalo, got to get there, got to win. And I just think Aaron Rodgers is not going to go to 4 championship games and lose 4 times in a row. They will play differently. They'll be more of a running, play action defense team. And I think that they've got a really good chance of going a long way with that mindset.
Them getting their tight end back is huge for what they need. Like when Mercedes Lewis is the only guy running the crosser on the bootleg, you're in trouble. Okay. Since 2012.
Eric, why don't you go next?
Thank you. Since 2012, every single Super Bowl except for one has had a quarterback on a rookie deal, and I'll be damned if Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are in the Super Bowl out of the AFC. So that quarterback is going to be out of the NFC, and it is going to be Jalen Hurts, and it is the Eagles.
Oh my God!
Losing the Andy Reid Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh God!
And we're gonna look back at this and say, look, it's lining up like 2017 did. For the Eagles, right? We're going to come back and be like, oh my gosh, this team is a house. How did we not see this? And just like we did in 17, quarterback on a rookie deal early in his career, they bring people like back then it was Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith. Now it's AJ Brown. On the defense, it's a bunch of like, who's going to want to pass against that pass rush? Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, those Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, those are guys. And we're going to look back and we're going to say, why didn't we see it coming?
I know you can drive 2 bandwagons at the same time, like the Lions and the Eagles. Eric's just cruising.
Can I point something out?
Tesla bandwagon.
This just occurred to me. Aren't you the guy that going into last year said the Eagles were the worst team in the NFL?
I do. But when the world changes, I change my mind, Petro. I was wrong. It happens.
I always say, and I agree with new information, I reserve the right to change my opinion. So I got your back 100% on being willing to change that.
Sirianni I'll say this. Sirianni is a poor man's Dan Campbell. Like those people love him. And I'll say this.
Is that a compliment?
Yes. And last season he was calling plays for the first half of the year. And then he gave the play calling job to Shane Steichen, who did a great job in Los Angeles with Herbert as a rookie. And Shane Steichen put together a game plan that played to Jalen Hurts' strengths. That is I like coaches who will adjust on the fly and in many cases give themselves less responsibility because it's for the best of the team. Nick Sirianni has it. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, Nick Sirianni was hyped by Todd Haley back in the day when he was like quality control, and then Todd Haley gave him his shot at the wide receivers coach. And Todd Haley, not that Todd Haley's the great, birther of Super Bowl champions, but he has always been highly thought of, and I agree with you that the guy's got something. I just think it's a little premature to be all in on the Eagles. All right, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I have Bills over Packers, and I just want to throw up in my mouth a little bit here because I'm right there lockstep with Chadiha. Right. And you know what? I hate it even more because Eric made a great point. How do I not have a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl? Like, that's one of my big things I always talk about. Yet, and this is why I haven't had the Super Bowl right in years, because I've jammed the stupid Packers in there every year, seeming like 8 of the last 10 years I've had Aaron Rodgers and the Packers making it. They never do. Right? Like Trey Lance probably has a better chance of playing in the Super Bowl than Aaron Rodgers does for all the reasons we've talked about. But I do think the Bills are pretty salty. So I'll take Bills over Packers and not be.
You said a rookie contract or a rookie quarterback?
Rookie contract. So
rookie contract.
Josh Allen's on a rookie contract.
No, he's on a big boy contract.
Yeah.
No, he's not. He came in the league with Lamar Jackson.
He signed his extension before last year.
But it hasn't started. He hasn't got.
Well, he's on the year 5, right? His number, I think, this year is like, I've got it right here.
Yeah.
His number is like 20-something million.
Yeah,
that's not terrible, but it's also not like the full rookie contract.
I'm sorry, he's 16 million.
Yeah,
so that's reasonable for sure.
That's reasonable. Yeah, he's you're right. He's in the last year of the rookie contract, with the extension kicked in.
Yeah, because I'm counting Cam Newton, who was a 2011 signee, but had his extension in 15, but was playing on rookie deal money when he took the Panthers to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and similarly with Mahomes in 20.
So we're okay. So we make it with Josh Allen.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So now I can like it a little bit better. All right, that's going to do it for us. Our preview of the NFL season. All these things are absolute mortal locks. Run to the casino and drop every dollar you've got on our predictions because they're deadbolt locks, right? We've never made a mistake on any of these. We'll see how we do. Always fun to make the predictions. Obviously, a lot of football to be played, a lot of injuries will be had, and a lot of things will happen in this league, but we've at least taken our shot at it, and we'll see how we do. So for Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus, I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hit that like button, the love button, the subscribe button. It helps us a lot. Doesn't cost you anything. We'll see you next week on 2D.